Hi everyone. For my book review, I've actually decided to do it in front of some of my coworkers. And the book I chose was Eats, Shoots, and Leaves. This book was written by Lynn Truss. She is actually a British author who was a little hesitant when she did this book in the American way. She wasn't sure if she wanted to change it up, kind of Americanize it, but she actually decided to keep it in the UK way because she just felt like it just made so much more sense. So I have a couple of notes here that I'm going to use and some quotes and different things from the book that I wanted to also share. So the first thing I wanted to share with you was her version of why punctuation is actually so important. So if you notice, the title of her book is Eats, Shoots, and Leaves. So there's a joke that actually goes like this. A panda bear walks into a restaurant and he orders a sandwich to eat. So the waiter brings him a sandwich. After he finishes his sandwich, he shoots a gun up in the air and he leaves. So the waiter goes and asks him, why did you do that? Why did you leave this way? So he gives him a book of grammar and tells him, to look it up so he'll know. So in that book, he finds where it does say panda eats, comma, shoots, and leaves. So you can look at it two different ways. A panda bear, he eats, shoots, bamboo shoots, and leaves. But if you look at it, eats, comma, shoots a gun up in the air, and then he leaves, that's exactly what the joke was saying. But if you look at it this way without the comma, eats, shoots, and leaves, which means he's actually eating shoots and leaves, not shooting a gun in the air and then leaving. So Mrs. Truss's whole point was trying to get across with the title is how important that punctuation is. So she was actually a #1 New York bestseller. She is actually a very big stickler on punctuation. She is a self-described person who just is pretty much obsessed with punctuation. And reading in her book, you can see where it comes from. She really does make a lot of sense in the way she puts it in her book. She puts a little bit of humor behind it. At times it was hard to get through some stuff because she does still go with the UK and not American. So it was a little bit of a struggle for me, but I really enjoyed the book. I thought it was really funny. The title is what really caught my eye. And so one of the things that she put in there is punctuation is so important because it really does give meaning to the whole sentence. If punctuation is put incorrectly, it could change the whole meaning of the sentence. And so one of the things she actually first talked about was apostrophes and the importance of apostrophes, which actually were from the 16th century. And in Greek, they actually mean turning away. And if you look at an apostrophe, it actually looks like it's turning away. So some of the things, with apostrophes, one really cool thing that I found in her book, where I know I struggle with sometimes apostrophes, is it's saying the possessor is plural but does not end in S. The apostrophe simply precedes the S. So say you have a sentence that says the children's playground. You're going to use that apostrophe on children's because it's explaining it's the children's playground. The women's movement, which you're also going to use an apostrophe on the women's because it is not a plural word, which you need to make it a plural word. So with those, you will use the apostrophe. And then you have the other sense where you're going to use an apostrophe after the S, which means when the possessor is a regular plural, the apostrophe follows the S. So say like you have a word like the boys. Boys is already plural, so you're actually going to use that apostrophe after it. Babies, which is also plural, you're also going to use that apostrophe after it. She also gives a lot of samples on, like, say, how we use the word it's. It's can be really hard to, if you're using it, a lot of the way that I found it is if you're using it with an apostrophe, you're going to put it is to make it make more sense. It's without the apostrophe, you're also going to use it if it's plural. So for me, I use that it is to be able to make it easier. And I found that really simple in her book, the way she used it. The apostrophe also comes in play when you use the words couldn't, shouldn't, can't, won't. You use, will not, cannot, should not, have not for haven't. So in her book, she explained how if you actually break these words up in two, you're going to find it a lot easier to use that punctuation. She also talked about semicolons and colons a lot and the difference that they could also make. She had a really, really neat little passage here in this book where she used the way a comma versus a colon would actually work. So I'm going to read this to you. It says, a woman, comma, without her man is nothing. Meaning, a woman without her man, she's going to be nothing. But then she used a colon. A woman, colon, without her, comma, man is nothing. Which means, without a woman, man is nothing. So I thought it was really interesting where she had the exact two same sentences, but just by placing a comma and a semicolon, it changed up the whole meaning of the sentence. I thought that was really brilliant the way she explained this. This book made me really have a different perspective on how I could actually use commas and semicolons. I've actually been struggling through this class to try and grasp how punctuation really works. I find myself very hesitant to use a comma, to use a semicolon or a colon. But through this book, she really had me understand it a lot better, not only through humor, but just the way her writing was. Like I said, at times it was a little bit challenging because of the wording and how different it was in the UK. But overall, I thought this was an excellent book. I actually bought this book, and I'm really going to be referring back to it once I become a teacher because I think it's an excellent book to look back on and kind of have a refresher on what, your punctuation or how it should go. Sometimes I think we tend to forget. So this was an excellent book. I really got a lot out of it. If you guys want to read it, I suggest you really read it. It's a really good book. Thank you.